It's so hard to leave a relationship with someone who is making an effort to make you happy and to convince you to stay. And if you're someone with abandonment wounds from your childhood, leaving feels even harder. It's hard to think, it's hard to see straight, it's hard to trust your judgment. But when you know there are deal breaker problems, or when there are important things missing from the relationship that you know in your heart that you need and deserve, then it could be time to break up properly. My letter today is from a woman I'll call Charlotte, and she's in the middle of realizing her relationship needs to end, but she doesn't know how to actually pull the trigger. And she writes, "Hi Anna, I'm 36 years old and I have a wonderful child from a previous marriage. My childhood was riddled with multiple abandonments, losses, neglect, and poverty. As an adult, I spent 4 years in therapy, new age woo-woo, and all of the above without much relief, so I'm grateful to finally know recovery is possible. Since I've been watching your videos and doing the daily practice techniques that you teach, my relationship with my partner, which was previously on the rocks, started to improve. I can't tell if the partnership has become unhealthy because my CPTSD has me so triggered and emotionally out of control around some of his behavior, or if his behavior was simply toxic. We have a long history. We've been good friends for almost 20 years, since I was in high school. He was also my limerent lover. I always irrationally dreamt of being with him. We were never really together as a couple until I divorced my ex-husband. My ex turned out to have a sex addiction and was emotionally and financially abusive, so there was a lot of pain and suffering during our 8-year marriage. He didn't want to let me go and made various threats about killing himself, taking away our son, and making sure I would have nothing if I left the marriage. It took 2 separate tries and 6 months of serving papers, restraining orders, and a lot of drama to finally escape. This was when my old limerent friend appeared like a knight in shining armor, helping me to leave the marriage. Let's call him Mark. We have experienced a lot of good things together these past 4 years, but we've also had some problems. In particular, his secretive behavior surrounding communication with girls on social media and dating apps. I even found out he cheated early on in our relationship. He's in the military and was unexpectedly deployed about the time my divorce became official. I think he was unsure that I would be able to follow through on the divorce. I kept him in my gray zone because it was a very scary and unstable time. This is when he was with other women and unfortunately was not forthcoming about it. I had been told that we were exclusive, and he was very clear that he wanted a marriage, life, and future together. When he came back from the deployment, we started over. He would often claim he couldn't love me or anyone, though he also said he wanted to be together exclusively. He said he didn't want a marriage anymore, but seems to still want all the benefits of a marriage, which was confusing to me. We have shared a life as partners who share household chores and responsibilities. We help each other with family, friends, work, and dreams. I should also add that he's extremely generous with me and my child. I now understand I ran from one relationship to another without fixing my deep childhood trauma wounds. I also realize I was convincing myself that I didn't need marriage or a formal commitment, partly because Mark didn't want those things, and partly because my first marriage didn't work out. Since I started becoming healthy and establishing boundaries, he suddenly announced he quit social media, which had been a huge source of a lot of our drama. He's suddenly been stepping up in how he shows up, and he said he would put me on the title of his house that we now live in lieu of marriage. After my recent work on my own CPTSD through your channel, I've discovered that I do indeed crave a committed, stable, healthy, and loving marriage that would benefit my son too. There is still a part of me that wants another child too. Mark has been on the fence about this until recently, but has since clearly stated he doesn't want any children of his own. I made a bold move a few months ago and moved out to my own place with my son. Still, it's been very hard to actually break up. The more I get well and distance, the more Mark appears to get well and come closer. His offer to put me on the house's title in lieu of marriage was shocking. It was something that I had asked for a while ago, which he refused then. He has showed more effort in connecting with my son the last few months too. It's very confusing. He still refuses to go to therapy together. Still, I can't come to trust him for doing what he did. I've asked for a break and it's been at least 3 weeks, but he keeps weaving himself back into our lives and saying he loves us. But the fact is, he hasn't put much effort into spending time with my son in the past. They, in general, like each other, they're respectful with each other, but Mark is afraid of getting attached to my son, he says. He won't even play ball with him for a few minutes. At first, he had asked that I don't pressure him and allow our relationship to develop naturally, but 4 years have gone by, and clearly Mark avoids my son. I have seen the sadness in my son, hoping to connect with Mark, and eventually, my son just stopped trying. I'm a devoted mom. I have an interesting career and lots of loving friends around me. They're all saying not to give this guy another chance. I don't know how to say these words to break up. There is a part of me that fears I'm giving up my best friend and my one true love. You've given me hope that perhaps one day I can be mostly healed and have a partner who would love to be a good role model to my child. If you could help me put together some of those words so I can hear them and practice them, it would be so helpful. I keep finding myself explaining why I'm not happy, and he then jumps in to fix it. How do you break up with your best friend of 20 years who was a limerent lover who became a pretty good partner? How do you know if enough is enough? How would the fairy break up? What does it look like in action? Thank you so much. I look forward to continuing my work here under your guidance. All right, Charlotte, I got your back here. I see that this is a tough one. You know, he's not terrible. He's not abusive. But this thing where he said he really wanted a marriage and then he came back from his deployment and he said he didn't want that. You know, being on the title of the house, that's nice and everything, but it's not marriage. It's not the same thing. Saying he doesn't want to bond with your son, having 4 years to do it and not doing it. The writing's on the wall. And you know what kind of the clincher for me was? That your friends all see it. Your friends are like, don't give him another chance. This thing about the online girls, I suppose maybe it ended and maybe that was a gray zone period. I don't know. He lied to you about it and he doesn't want to go to therapy. I'm just hearing from you, like, whatever he's done, it wasn't enough to satisfy you that something was different. And in fact, since then, like, I don't know, things got a little worse. So it's not uncommon that when you pull apart from somebody and take some distance, they would try to come back and draw you back in. He's a person. He's attached to you. He doesn't want you to leave. That's understandable. So he's trying to get you back, but he's not doing what needs to be done. And in fact, if you were to leave him, and he took that as a sign like, okay, now he's got to change his tune. He's got to ask you to marry him and all that. You wouldn't really want him to do that out of fear. You know, you would want, I agree with you. I think that you are someone totally capable and deserving of being with somebody who's really excited to have a marriage with you, to have a family with you, maybe another kid, to be a stepdad to your son. Those are really important goals. And the way your son feels sad and let down, that's your kind of litmus test. You know, what's good for the kids is good for us. And when you see your kids sad about the way they're treated by your partner, how are you going to possibly feel better than that, right? So I think you're making a good call. It's a sad one. You know, this guy's not like the devil or anything. It's just not what you need. So here are my tips for a clean, minimally painful breakup, you know, as not painful as it can be, with someone who's not abusive. And of course, that would be different with somebody who was. But this is how to break up with somebody when it's someone you care about, but they're just not the one for you. Okay? So first, tell him that you have something important to talk about and ask him to meet you. You've been with him long enough that this should definitely be an in-person conversation. And the best place to meet is in a public place where no one can make a scene. Not so public that there's no privacy, but public so that you know, you can safely exit the conversation after a fairly short period of time. So a coffee shop would be good, a park is good, a restaurant is too long, you have to wait for a lot of stuff to come to the table and pay for it, and you may want to make your exit before then. So you could even meet at a bus stop, but I don't know, that's a bit sad. You want to be somewhere where other people are around, but they can't hear you unless you raise your voice. So the other person, in this case Mark, will probably have an idea where the conversation's going if you're like, you know, meet me in a coffee shop. I need to talk to you. And when you do sit down and talk to them, you can let them know right away in the conversation that you're breaking up with them. That's the first thing to say. Don't, you know, drag the conversation out or mislead them. You do need to give them a reason, but I recommend only giving the minimal amount of information so that they can understand why. Now, in the long run, it will help them to know why, and people deserve to know why, but it doesn't need to be every painful detail of how little we think of them, right? So in every way possible, this is assuming the person has acted in good faith, just avoid criticizing, blaming, or shaming the other person. For example, if the problem were that you're physically repulsed by a person, that's not what you said, but I'm just saying something that's so hurtful. You don't have to say that. In something like that, you can say that, the match just doesn't feel right. You're looking for a relationship where that rightness is very clear. You should be kind, but be clear. So Charlotte, you asked me for the words that you could use to break up with Mark. So I'll tell you how you might express the reasons in the way that you told me. Okay, so it goes like this. Mark, I've decided I need to end our relationship. And I know that's hard. And I know you've done a lot to try to make me happy, and I really appreciate that. I've realized, though, that I never really recovered, trust-wise, from what happened early in our relationship with the other women online. And what I know about myself is, if I'm ever going to be in a relationship, it has to have a full commitment, a marriage, not just because of that commitment to me, but a commitment to my son. And I may want to have another kid someday in the future, and I know that's not what you want. So you've been so generous with us, and you've been my best friend for 20 years, but I know in my heart that being a couple is not right for us. So Charlotte, then, when it comes to seeing each other in the future, I'd suggest that you don't leave it open-ended, even if it seems like this will make it easier. When you say goodbye, it's okay to give him a hug, but make it just a quick and cool hug. Don't send mixed signals with the way that you show concern for his feelings. You care about him, but you're no longer going to be taking care of him. So don't let this conversation last more than, say, 20 or 30 minutes. And after the information is out there, let him say a thing or two, but lingering on this is only going to open the door for the hurt feelings to start welling up and coming out, and it could get yucky. So you've said your piece. He's had a chance to say something. Trust that he's going to be able to handle the experience and take care of himself after you've parted. Now, you could offer to have a phone conversation with him in a week or two and set a time to do it. When you have that call, have a friend at your house with you to help you keep the call boundaried and under 20 minutes long, and not have it veer into how you're going to be friends now or work it out. If you want to break up, you need to let this be the real thing. So don't agree to get together in person. Don't get sucked into taking care of him or negotiating some kind of friendship. And don't tell him flat out that you don't intend to be friends. You can say something like, for now, I need time apart so that I can heal from this too. And that's true. Who knows? Maybe in the future you could have contact again. Don't give in and offer him hope. Don't make plans for the future. Over time, this clean ending will help both of you to move on. Now, if he has stuff at your house or vice versa, I suggest you make a time and ask him to have your things ready for you, and then go with a friend and be quick and polite. Don't engage with him about anything other than getting your stuff. A clean ending means you do not ghost them. You communicate directly, you give them your reasons, you express your concern, but when it's done, you don't call them, you don't text them, you don't invite them to gatherings, and if you know they're going to be at a gathering, don't go. Not for a while anyway, not until you're really, really not connected to them anymore. Don't email them, don't stay in touch with their family. It takes self-discipline, but if this person is not your true love, then getting out is a big step toward true love for you, Charlotte. Not away from true love. You're going toward true love. Now you are available. And you being out of that unhappy and unfulfilling relationship is going to start to feel really, really good soon, even if it means being single for a while. And when one day you find yourself happy and loved the way you want to be loved, you're going to only wish that you got out of that old relationship even sooner. Everyone here on this channel is rooting for you. Everyone here, if you love this topic and you want to know how to stop settling for too little in your life, I've got this video lined up for you right here, and I will see you very soon.